俺は全てを投げ打って今戦うことだけを考えている。お前が俺をそうさせたんだぞ。はあ！
いつだって俺はこんな風に戦い続けてきた。だけどトムロ潜水、お前らの戦いの目的は結局自分を倒してくれるやつを探していたんだろう。俺の戦いの目的は一体何だ。
Hello everyone, I am the Golden Scouta, and welcome to my review of the Three Kings arc of Yu Yu Hakusho. This review will contain major spoilers on the arc and on how this show concludes. So now is the time to turn off the video and come back later if you don't like spoilers. But without further ado, let's begin. The Three Kings arc is by far the most polarizing arc in the series, mainly because of how rushed it feels and how this arc had the potential to tell a grander story, if some of Togashi's original ideas were used, such as the Demon Realm War. There is also the point to bring up that several characters who had major parts in previous arcs are pushed to the background, with the main problem with fans being Kuwabara. Despite this arc's major flaws, I still find it to be a very solid shonen arc. It still has all the elements of Yu Yu Hakusho that has been present before that has just made it that enjoyable to watch. Great characters, good character development, good fights, and a decent story. But let's get into the nitty-gritty details. So the arc opens off very similarly to the beginning of the Chapter Black arc, that Yusuke is once again bored with everyday life. But it's even more of a problem this time around because he never got the closure he wanted from his fight with Sensui, like he did with Togoro. I mean, after all, his ancestor did take over his body and finish Sensui himself. And on top of this dilemma, Yusuke is also very curious about his heritage and wants to meet the demon who possessed his body. And again, like the last arc, the Three Kings arc opens off very strongly, with Koenma being banished from the spirit realm and how King Yenma and his retainers are constantly trying to assassinate Yusuke is really ironic considering how the Chapter Black arc began. Koenma was most concerned about an S-class demon crossing over to Earth when trying to take down Sensui, and yet Yusuke ends up being that demon. And this is the mission that got him punished by King Yenma like he was always afraid of previously. I do absolutely love the interactions between Yusuke and Genkai in this arc, mainly because of how she lays it down to him regarding his second existential crisis. Yusuke has to find his own path, and that if he truly wanted to, he could destroy Earth if he decided to go down that route. But since she doesn't know how to help Yusuke, Genkai sets up a meeting with the very first spirit detective, so he might get an idea on how someone moved on to a peaceful life after one filled with so much fighting. This spirit detective reveals that her wanting to settle down and have a family is what ultimately made her give up fighting as a profession, which is a perfectly acceptable explanation. But seeing Yusuke as a teenager and still in high school, I don't think he's ready to settle down and have a family just yet. And so the first episode ends with a tension-filled cliffhanger just like the last arc, with 3 new characters that seem like enemies appearing, that are the catalyst for officially starting the story. So Yusuke, Hiei, and Kurama are all summoned to Demon World, each to train and serve for 3 major kingdoms. The reason why they're summoned is because the Demon Realm is about to permanently shift on how it functions, after many generations of a constant stalemate between the 3 kingdoms. The reason for this shift is because one of the 3 kings of the Demon Realm is getting close to death, which happens to be Yusuke's ancestor. So at this point, we do get some character-centric episodes, which I do find to be a mixed bag. The Yusuke and Raizen episode, good enough episode, and gives Raizen a suitable backstory onto how he had a child with a human. Judging how Raizen Yusuke slaughtered Sensui mercilessly, you would think that the backstory would be something equivalent to how Freddy Krueger was conceived, So I was very pleasantly surprised to see Raizen's character fleshed out the way it was. I just wish that he didn't have to die so soon. So the Hiei Makuro episode, great episode. We finally get to find out more about Hiei, who we've known very little about until this point. The scuffle with Shigure is simply great just because of the drama and that wow moment to how Hiei takes the win. I've read from various sources that going up in the power scale ranking is often parallel to the mortal's intelligence. This does explain onto why there has been the stalemate between the three kings for so long. Since the three of them are the most powerful demons in existence to the point of absurdity, the logic is, if two of the three kings were to fight, and one is killed, the winner will be stamina drained. So this leaves the last one to swoop in and take the kill, and thus, complete control over the demon realm. So the Kurama and Yomi episode, not very interesting one. At this point, we already know about Kurama and Yomi's past relationship in a nutshell, and Kurama's character is pretty much fully fleshed out at this point of the show, so there isn't as much room for him to develop like Yusuke or Hiei. After these character-centric episodes, Yusuke decides to confront Yomi to set up a tournament, where the champion gains control of the demon realm, which he explains it like an election, but with fists. Another tournament is a bit uncreative, since the Dark Tournament was such a massively long arc, and that even after the Chapter Black arc, it's hard not to just draw out that instinctual response of, really? Another tournament? And I mean, even from the most diehard fans, I expect this reaction. But with the Dark Tournament contestants returning, that was something that was very welcome to me. But I have heard from many people that they were wasted, since they were defeated by the time the Yusuke and Yomi round rolled around. But I found their return to be just the right amount of fan service, and showed that they weren't plot armored at all. I mean, especially since characters like Chu or Jin are fan favorite characters of this show. Ironically enough, what I did find to be a wasted opportunity was not bringing Rando back. Yes, he's insanely evil and would be challenging to write into the story, but out of every demon presented thus far in the franchise, I think he would have been the most interesting to bring back, since he has so many countless techniques that were never demonstrated. So with the tournament itself, all of the rounds are entertaining, and I do like how each of the major characters' rounds close up their character arcs nicely. Starting with Kurama choosing to abandon his Yoko form because of its influence on him. Speaking of Shigure, his return is so ridiculous since he had the top half of his head sliced clean off. I can't even begin to tell you how absurd it is that he actually survived and healed from that. The Yomi vs. Shura match is a classic father-son matchup, with Yomi trying to instill the value of living to fight another day to his son. I did enjoy it, even though that was pretty much the sole reason for their fight. But moving on to the Hiei vs. Makuro round, it's really hard not to ship these two at this point. The fight is solid, and it's a really good send-off for the Hiei fans. All of his cool moves are busted out, and his character arc really does feel closed after this. So on to the main spectacle, Yusuke vs. Yomi. The best fight in the series, if I'm going to be honest. So for me, Yu Yu Hakusho saved its best for last. And on top of me finding this to be the most entertaining fight in the series, I loved the character development for Yusuke as he finally realizes why it is that he fights. And even though he does pass out and wakes up instantly after the fight and the tournament's over, I don't find this to be a problem, since the arc was building up to Yusuke vs. Yomi anyways. So what's left to talk about is the ending. It's a happily ever after ending, but I found it to be fitting. With the champion of the tournament being a lighthearted one, you get the sense that the balance between the human realm, demon realm, and spirit realm will be just fine for years to come. I do wonder what Togashi's original ending would have been, since I've heard that he was planning on killing off one of the major three characters. Which sounds like it would have been a bittersweet ending. So with the Three Kings arc, while not perfect, it still serves as a great, or even perhaps perfect ending place to Yu Yu Hakusho for a couple reasons. We get to see the strongest of the strongest that this series has to offer, so the powers of these characters really truly feel like that they've reached a ceiling in just how strong mortals can become in this series. Next reason, we get a proper closure to the series and how it answers almost every question we wanted answers for, and leaves the series very little room for continuation. Thus, Yu Yu Hakusho feels like an organically complete series. I do see its flaws for sure, but I think it does a good job at picking up the pieces from some of the half-baked and non-utilized ideas, and really sends off this anime feeling like a complete story. Sure, you could probably squeeze in another arc somehow, but with the story being this neatly wrapped up with a bow, who needs it? Yu Yu Hakusho is a top-tier classic shonen anime that doesn't need a continuation or remake, and it's one of those anime that I will continue to revisit time and time again because I love it so much. Well, that concludes my series review of Yu Yu Hakusho, and it's only the start of my anime reviews. If this is the only review of Yu Yu Hakusho that you've seen of mine, I do cover the other 3 arcs, which I will link down below in the description. So until next time, thank you all for watching, and have a great day, everyone.